No, they
they
played
did.
I
last.
didn't know the rule between the
That's
road
right.
and
I
the
watched that
sidewalk.
game.
And they won 17-14.
Yeah, and with, but
That's
nobody's
right.
playing.
Up there all day.
It was a great game for them. That was a great game.
You're right.
I just texted them and I just said, we're just waiting.
He goes, look, it's not just yours. He pulls it. We got the whole
Ready?
back.
We're gonna get started here.
It's like, oh.
Good evening. Today is Monday, October 25th, 2021. Welcome to this evening's regular meeting of the Oregon City Council. Let's begin tonight's meeting by standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Evans, would you please take a roll call of council for attendance this evening?
Mr. Davish?
Here.
Mr. Horniak?
Here.
Mrs. Pollock? Here. Mr. Reeves?
Here.
Mr. Seaman?
Here.
Mr. Wallenzek?
Here.
Mr. Zale?
Here.
Thank you. Please note that all members of council are present this evening. Also joining us are Clerk of Council, Ms. Tina Evans, Mayor Michael Safarian, our Law Director, Melissa Pecora, our Public Service Director, Mr. Paul Roman, our Zoning Commissioner, Mr. Jim Gilmore, Police Chief, Mr. Brandon Began, Fire Chief, Mr. Dennis Hartman, and our Finance Director, Ms. Darlene Huntermark. Council, the first order of business this evening would be the approval of the meeting minutes for September 27, 2021 regular meeting of council.
Mr. President,
Mr. Seaman.
I move to accept the minutes from the September 27th, 2021 regular council meeting as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Seaman.
Second.
Second by Mr. Reeves. Council, any objections? Here are no objections. The meeting minutes from the September 27th, 2021 regular meeting of council are approved as submitted. Council, we do have two public hearings before us today. Our first public hearing, I will open the public hearing at 7:09. This public hearing is for application Z-812-21 for a zoning change from an R1 low-density residential district to an A1 agricultural district on a portion of the property described as parcel number 44-38640. The owner applicant is William Myers. The location is 6261 Corduroy Road. Again, public meeting is open. Mr. Gilmore, would you please give us a brief overview?
As you said, it was, thank you, Council President. As you stated, it's for a zoning change from an R1 to agricultural district. The Plan Commission gave its recommendation of approval. And the only other thing that I can add to that is that, as you can see by the map up there, represented in the green is the existing ag district, and the striped is the R1 district. And as you can see, that it abuts a R1 district in the rear, and a few doors down adjacent to that is ag district also.
Thank you, Mr. Gilmore. At this time, I'll ask if there's anybody to speak in favor of the zoning change. Mr. Myers, would you please state your name and address for the record, please?
William Myers, 6810 Cedar Point Road. I'll answer any questions if there's any concerns, but my son's property right next door last month, we did for the same basic reason, for the raising of animals. And I should have done them both at the same time, as Mr. Gilmore suggested, but it just didn't work out that way.
Council, is there any questions for Mr. Myers? Mr. Myers? No questions.
Thank you.
Council, is there any questions in general on this agricultural change? Since there's no questions, I'll close the meeting at 7:11. I will assign item number 120 of 2021 with ordinance number 120 of 2021 and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record. Ms. Evans.
Authorizing a change in the district map for property located at 6261 Corduroy Road, parcel number 44-38640, from R1 low-density residential zoning to A1 agricultural district zoning.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Council.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Horniak.
I move for passage of ordinance 120 of 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak.
Second.
Second by Mr. Davish. Ms. Evans, would you please take a roll call of council on passage of ordinance number 120 of 2021?
Mr. Horniak?
Yes.
Mr. Davish?
Yes.
Mrs. Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Reeves,
Yes.
Mr. Seaman,
Yes.
Mr. Wallenzeck.
Yes.
Mr. Zale.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Please note that ordinance number 120 of 2021 did pass by a vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays. We'll move to the second public hearing.
Mr. President, before you start,
Yes, sir.
we need to probably remind people that we need to speak in the mics because it's real hard to hear.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Please,
Reeves.
thank you.
Council members, again, please move your mics forward or scoot forward so we can talk directly into the mics.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Mr. Reeves. Our second public hearing will start at 7:13. This public hearing is for a one-year review of the previously granted special use in an R5 condo residential district for the purpose of operating a business out of a food truck on the property described as parcel number 44-19754. The applicant is Delana Ball for the owner of Our Lady of Toledo Shrine. The location is 635 South Coy Road. Again, I'll ask Mr. Gilmore to give us a brief overview. Mr. Gilmore?
Yeah, thank you, Council President. This was in front of the Plan Commission where there was a recommendation to give a one-year extension before we review it again. Is that correct, Mayor?
That is correct. And I was going to refer to the law director, Melissa, to put the proper verbiage in because it wasn't for a
Thank you.
unlimited extension. It was for a period of 1 year. So you want to add the language so that they will be voting on.
And that's where it would needed to be added under the summary and background continuation for 1 year of the SUE.
Just that
Okay.
simple, with that simple change.
It does state it under section 1
Yeah.
after now therefore, so it is stated there. So I think we'll be okay as far as it being stated there, but in the summary and background, it should have been added. And we can just add that by what I just stated, but it does state it under section 1, item 1.
Okay.
Yes. When we bring it forward, it will be brought forward with that language change.
Correct.
Thank you. Mr. Gilmore, is that it?
That's it.
Very good. At this point, I'll ask if there's anybody here to speak in favor of the application. When you step forward, if you could please state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Jim Hightower. I live at 6418 Lakeway Drive, Oregon, Ohio.
Thank you.
I'm here for myself and with my wife, basically in support of Zobides. We've been here now for 41 years and moving to Oregon, we've always, felt very good about the schools, the parks, the recreation, the theater. But to have a unique kind of shop to go get an espresso or a cappuccino, you can go to Kroger's, you can go to Tim Hortons or McDonald's, but it's not quite the same. So it's basically that uniqueness of Zobides that I was very, very excited when it first, opened up. Then they were closed for a while with a problem, I believe, with after the permits. That I'm not really as aware of and stuff on that. And then when they came back, for a lot of Oregonians, if you want a unique shop, something a little bit different, you have to go to Perrysburg, downtown Toledo, Rossford, or out to Oak Harbor to be able to have something that's a little bit unique like that. So I guess my request would be for Oregon, for the council, to be receptive and open to small businesses, unique businesses
Great guy.
maybe coming in. We have a number of big box stores and franchise,
Woods.
but again, it's just more that uniqueness of a small shop like this. Is that my timer to go?
No. It's,
That you violated.
it's my 13-year-old son texted me. He's at home alone right now.
Notice on the front door. No cell
Yeah, that's
phones
right.
allowed.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would still like to step forward? Steve? State your name and address for the record, please.
Yes. Steve Solander, 2435 East Oil Avenue in Oregon. I agree with him very much. I've been there a few times now, and not only is her coffee very, very good and different than what you can get anywhere else, but her crepes are out of this world. So, and I don't know of any other place in Oregon or even anywhere nearby that you can get something like that. So I think the uniqueness also of them and just the outstanding product that they have there also. I think it's definitely a plus for our city. And I know a lot of people that have been, saying also they are very interested in having something unique in the city. So I think it's definitely something we should look at that with that 1-year extension. I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody further? Again, state your name and address for the record, please.
Hello, my name is Delana Ball. I'm the owner of Sabidi Coffee and Crepes. So I'm the one that's bringing all the excitement to the city. So as they have said, I do bring something different to the table. The whole goal was to come open a storefront and, build a clientele first to be able to open a storefront. And that was the goal. I do bring something different. I bring, coffee, I bring crepes, I bring, all natural smoothies. I bring omelets and salads and just, out of a food truck, I do pretty doggone good actually. And it's been clean. It's well maintained. When I get inspected, everybody says, I wish that all food trucks were like yours. It is a very commercial, very clean unit. And I keep it that way. I'm a person of integrity and that's how I am. And I would want any restaurant I go to, I want it that way as well. So we had a really nice event in, when was that, in June. That event brought 3 news stations, all the vendors loved it. It was a really good event. It was a really nice event. It helped the shrine. That's actually where I live. I live inside the shrine. So that's, obviously I'm in favor for the business. I own the business. And I have a good product. I do. And I bring something different that nobody else. I know that people are concerned about storefronts. I get that, but I'll tell you, Tim Hortons is still out to Navarre. I'm not hurting them. I'm not hurting anybody. People come to me for something different, something special. If they want, quick, easy, fast, a different kind of product, then they're going to go there, But I bring something a little different to the table that people really do want and they really do enjoy. So.
Thank you very much.
Do I just sit down?
Yeah, we'll bring you back up if there's questions.
Okay.
Excellent, thank you. At this time, is there anybody else that would like to speak in favor of the application? Sir, would you like to state your name and address for the record, please?
Sure. Chris Roper, I am the president of the Board of Trustees of Our Lady of Toledo Shrine. A year ago, we were here and we were talking about it, and there were some concerns, and I sat back for a whole year and I watched. I mean, the food is fantastic, but what I was watching for was responsiveness. And if we had a concern, we went to Delana. She was right on it, fixed it. If there was I watched it with her customers. She went up and above and beyond to take care of her customers when they came up there, as well as people in the community. I personally watched one time, there was some stuff. We get a lot of, what we call our 10 Commandment Park, where that big St. Michael statue is. We get a lot of debris that blows in there from across the way at Kroger's and that, a lot of Kroger's bags and things. It has nothing to do with Delana, but I've seen her out there actually picking that stuff up just because someone brought a concern last year that there was going to be trash. So I feel as a tenant, And as a business owner, she goes above and beyond, not only to put her business first and foremost, but also for the community around it. She's very, very open to what's going on and trying to make a very good impression on everyone. And then I sincerely hope that you give her one more year, because I know the people in the community that have been coming there like her, and I know she's very conscientious about what she does. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody further? Having nobody further come forward, I'll ask if there's anybody here to speak in opposition. Council, is there any questions?
Mr. President,
Mr. Zale.
Delana, I heard you talk, and I don't have anything against your business, but when you talked, I didn't really hear a business plan from you to move forward within the next year. And I know the Plan Commission, it sounded to me like they make it perfectly clear to you that they're going to grant you one more year, and it won't go beyond that. And if council would approve that, I'm pretty sure they're going to be on the same page as that. So I guess the question that I have for you is, are you actively looking for a place, or is the Shrine going to provide a place for you that's brick and mortar? I've heard good things about your business, but it does sound to me like you need to pursue this really heavily in the next year, or it's going to be gone. I mean, are you under that understanding? Okay.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr. Zale.
President,
Mr. Seaman.
yes, I agree. I agree with what everybody said about the uniqueness and the high quality of the food and how it's an asset for our community. And it builds our community. It's better than, like Mr. Hightower indicated, all the big boxes and the chains. What I found out, something very good, was that there's people that can't drive, people that have trouble with personal mobility from some of the apartments and even a couple houses close by. They love walking over there because they can't drive. And there's no place as close to them as the Shrine parking lot. So that's the reason I'm especially supportive of it, in addition to what everybody else has brought up. What the access that it provides for people who are vulnerable and handicapped and have a difficult and don't drive for whatever reason, they love it. And I'm very supportive of it for that reason also. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Seaman. Council, is there any questions?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Horniak.
I do. Mrs. Spalding, I don't know if you want to take the mic or you want to answer from your seat. I'm comfortable either way. So I guess piggybacking some on what Mr. Zell brought up about the idea that the original approval was granted for the 1 year so you could kind of develop, establish, create a business following, which would allow you to go into a storefront. Obviously, in a tough year, I think we all take that into consideration. My question for you is, without revealing anything that you don't need to or that's proprietary, has the business been successful? And what would your plan be in a second year to help get you to a physical brick and mortar location?
Well, the business has been successful, actually. But there's been some setbacks that's happened that's hurt also. Let's just be honest. So I've tried to build and make things happen to allow the business to grow even better. But the business definitely has to grow at this point. So
Okay.
it's just being an honesty.
Any specific plans or ideas on how you intend to help that happen?
Well, I have ideas, but things have to be probably brought back to the board as well. And I've extended it, a little bit of time right now as far as hours, not days, but hours. And an extension of maybe days are going to have to happen as well. But at the moment, I'm keeping my days restricted for, a lot of reasons. So.
Okay. And you're 6 days a week, 7 days a week? What is your
Right now, I'm running Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday?
3 days a week. Yes, sir.
Okay.
I have to move every 40 days. So I'm not out to, it's a lot to move that thing. It's a beast. So, you know, so there's that. But I do need to extend my hours a little bit, but I believe, to make, you know, every day happen, but because I have to move it and because there's some things happening at the moment, it's staying restricted at Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Okay, the
For some
requirement
personal
to
reason.
move it every 40 days, I'm unfamiliar with
That's
that.
because it's a food truck.
Because it is food truck, it
Yes.
does
And
have to
that's
be
from the health
repositioned
department,
every-
correct?
That is from the health department.
Health department.
Yep, it has to be moved every 40 days.
Okay. And do you have any employees
I
that
do.
operate with you?
I do.
Okay, and how many employees?
Right now, I'm running one employee and, well, actually 2 employees.
Okay,
Part-time, one part-time and one more on the full-time side.
okay,
It's
All right.
still kind of part-time, but she works with me when I'm open, she's there. So
okay. And you're leasing the space from the shrine?
that is correct.
Okay, that's all I have, Mr.
Thank you,
President.
Mr. Horniak. I do have a question. I know that you have, and I watched the Plan Commission meeting on the internet,
Yes, sir.
and the shrine spoke about how valuable you are to them.
Yes, sir.
Has there been any conversations about adding a brick and mortar onto the current property that would let you operate still at that location, but with a
At the
storefront
moment,
there?
No,
Okay,
not at the moment.
okay,
But
thank you.
it's definitely something that has been thought about.
Potentially.
Potentially, yes.
Thank you. Great, thank you. I know that you had mentioned at the Plan Commission meeting what a valuable asset she has been to you. Thank
Mr.
you.
Mr. President.
Yes,
And,
Mayor.
and I would just add that if that becomes a more of a possibility, we'd love to have you in and we could talk to you about how you'd go about getting the zoning changes and modifications so that you could make that happen. Okay.
Mr. President.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Paul.
First of all, I really would like to applaud Ms. Ball. She took on this venture during COVID, and she turned it into something unique. And she does have a great clientele, because I have a lot of my clients that tell me, oh, did you stop by this? She makes this great, and we stopped by on the way there. So I applaud you for the hard work that you've put into this, and I would really love to see you have a brick and mortar spot in Oregon, a permanent spot, because I do know that you are a valuable asset to this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Paula. Councilors, any further questions?
I do, Mr. President.
Yes, Mr.
If I
Horniak.
may. Maybe a sideline question to this, but asking the question of the shrine. So you mentioned that the board is under consideration of this. Has the shrine now, or are they considering offering this type of opportunity to other businesses or food trucks?
She was able to fill a niche for us where a lot of shrines around the nation, in Ohio, Erie, in Bellevue, they have a cafeteria. It's a simple order, and she has up to those shrines and stop and have lunch. Our Lady of Freedom does not have that type of facility. So she was able to fill a niche for us. And again, as board of trustees, we talked about earlier, trying to make that a little bit more permanent. But again, it's something that we're in the discovery stage and getting more firm with that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor, any further questions? Hearing no further questions, I will close the meeting at seven,
Public hearing.
close the public hearing. Thank you, Mayor. Close the public hearing at 7:27. I will assign or item number 121 of 2021 with ordinance number 101 of 2021. And ask Mrs. Evans to read it into the record, please.
A review to continue authorization of a special use permit for parcel number 44-19754 for property located at 635 South Coy Road for the purpose of operating a business out of a food truck in an R5 condo residential zone district.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Council.
Mr. President,
Mr. Horniak.
question before I make motion. Does this need to be amended to include the 1 year, or did we discover that because it's in the actual ordinance under section 1 that it's covered there?
She already changed it, so you'll be voting on with adding it to that.
With the change, yes.
Summary.
With the,
Very good. Just confirming before I moved. Mr. President, I move for passage of ordinance 121 of 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak.
Second.
Second by Mr. Dabish. Mrs. Evans, would you please take a roll call of council for passage of ordinance number 121 of 2021?
Mr. Horniak,
Yes.
Mr. Dabish?
Yes.
Mrs. Polliff?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Seaman?
Yes.
Mr. Wallenzeck?
Yes.
Mr. Zale?
Yes.
Thank you, council. Please note that ordinance number 121 of 2021 did pass by a vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays. That concludes the public hearing portion of the meeting. If anybody wanted to exit after the public hearings, you're more than welcome to. If not, we will continue on our regular meeting. Okay. You're welcome. Good luck this next year. Okay.
go right.
Oh, okay, okay. Thanks, Mayor. Council, we did not have a committee of the whole meeting last week. Therefore, we need to add items 122 through 124 of 2021 to this evening's regular meeting agenda.
Mr. President,
Mr. Horniak.
I move for inclusion of items 122, 123, and 124 to this evening's agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak. Second by Mr. Reeves. Council, any objections? Here are no objections. Item number 122, 123, and 124 of 2021 are added to this evening's agenda. And we will start with item number 122 of 2021. This is being presented by Mayor Michael J. Safarian and Fire Chief Mr. Dennis Hartman. We're going to go directly to Chief Hartman. Chief Hartman?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a pretty standard item every year. Everybody has 2 sets of turnout gear. They last 10 years. Well, they last a lot longer, but they're certified for 10 years. So we try to replace several sets each year to give it so that everybody has a 5-year-old set and a brand new set so that we can keep it without having to have them all purchased at one time. In this particular case, we did have a number of new employees, and we've outfitted them all. We are not absolutely sure when we'll get it. That's the kind of time that we're in. It's at least 6 months and could be a year. The manufacturing is very, very difficult. So, but nonetheless, we need to place the order so that we can get them.
Thank you, Chief Hartman. Chief Hartman, a few years back, didn't we order a large number of turnout gear for our paid part-time staff?
Yes, we had,
Okay.
It was 5 years ago. I think there was, I don't know, I'm going to say 60 or 70 sets were purchased. Yes.
Okay.
Well, they're there. They're ready to go to backup. So.
Yep, understand. Thank you, Chief Hartman. Council, is there any questions for the Mayor Administration or Chief Hartman on this item? Here, no questions. I'll sign item number 122 of 2021 with ordinance number 122 of 2021 and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record. Ms. Evans?
Authorizing the mayor and finance director to purchase turnout gear for the fire department personnel from Phoenix Safety Outfitters, P.O. Box 20445, Upper Arlington, Ohio, in an amount not to exceed $27,486 and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Council?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Zale.
I move for passage of ordinance 122, 2021 as an emergency measure.
Thank you, Mr. Zale.
Second.
Second by Ms. Polliff. Ms. Evans, would you please take roll call, council, on passage of ordinance number 122 of 2021 as an emergency measure?
Mr. Zale?
Yes.
Mrs. Pollock?
yes,
Mr. Davish?
Yes.
Mr. Horniak?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Seaman?
yes,
Mr. Wallenzeck?
Yes. Thank you, council. Please note that ordinance 122 of 2021 did pass by a vote of 7 yeas and 0 nays. Move to item number 123 of 2021. This item is being presented by Mayor Michael J. Safarian and Public Service Director, Mr. Paul Roman. We're going to go directly to Mr. Roman. Paul?
Thank you, Mr. President. And this ordinance is needed to submit a Ohio Public Works Commission grant and loan application for our wastewater treatment plant. In particular, the project is called the Safety, Disinfection, and Grit Removal Improvement Project. Council's aware of this. We've gone through design for preliminary design and as well as detailed design with Arcadis. Project consists of replacing our existing chlorination system. It's our disinfection for the wastewater effluent and replacing it with ultraviolet light disinfection. And, the current practice for wastewater treatment is to use UV. It actually performs much better, especially for wet weather flows and killing E. coli. With chlorine, as much as you chlorinate, you have to dechlorinate as well before you discharge it. And it's really becoming outdated for really wastewater treatment. So, and then our grit removal is the plant original. Plant was built in '74, and it's extremely inefficient. And it's a big maintenance headache. A lot of grit gets into the other tanks, and if the grit removal moved it as it should, you wouldn't have these maintenance costs. So, the description and the costs and the schedule are included in Exhibit A. The format for OPWC now is all electronic, and so it's not really the same forms that you normally see, but everything is there in the exhibit. We are asking for 1.8 million, 900,000 grant, 900,000 0% loan. We've also applied to the Ohio Department of Development. They have a wastewater and water infrastructure grant program. We've asked for 4.1 million through that program. That program might be a long shot. There's a lot of projects being submitted, and we did get support from Lucas County for our project. You had to make the top 10 priority list, and we did for the county. We also apply for we have applied for a low interest loan through the Ohio EPA, Water Pollution Control Loan Fund, and the hope is you get interest rate around 1% has been the going rate. So, and we would use that to finance this project. But, just like past water plant and wastewater plant projects, we do, so if we have to finance the project and pay a loan, we'll create what's called the capital improvement charge. It's really an assessment. It gets paid until the loans are paid, and once it's paid, it comes off the bill. It would be the same. And this size of project, it's 7.7 million. That's with $1 million of contingency. Concern is, right now with, ordering equipment and materials, that there's a lot of unknowns. Our contingency is a little bit higher in trying to prepare for that. But it's really the same size. If you recall, we did 2 phases to our wastewater plant years ago. It's very similar to the phase 1 project. Again, the charge would not go on the bill till 2024. So we would go out to bid next year. It would take a good 15 months to construct, and then would bring in legislation to put it on the 2024 bill. Right now, this 21 was our last year for our 3-year rate increase. And so we won't have any rate increases in 22 or 23, but then we'd have this charge in 24. So, but happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Council, is there any questions for the administration, Mr. Roman, on item number 123?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Seaman.
Mr. Roman, how would the grit removal process change or be different than what we currently use that you said was kind of inefficient? So what's the plan?
Mr. President, Mr. Seaman, the plan is pretty much replacing the existing equipment within the existing buildings. We won't create new buildings. We'll retrofit the existing buildings. There's like these vortex type machines that when the wastewater comes in, it'll go through it and the grit will drop out. The problem is that, again, the existing equipment is just outdated. And to go further, on with switching from chlorine to UV, we're just going to use the existing channels that the chlorine was injected. We are going to build the UV equipment into those existing channels. So a lot of this work is retrofitting existing building and existing channels to do this. So a lot of it is equipment replacement for grit removal and really same for the UV. This project also includes handrail replacement and various concrete repairs. There's just a lot of things that need to be done just to keep up with safety, so.
Mr. President, yeah, I'd
Yes, Mr.
like to
Seaman.
check with Mr. Roman now. This is a pretty expensive capital improvement. I mean, I'm saying it's okay, it's worthwhile. Now, what kind of chargeback do we have any other people or any other entities that use of course, our wastewater
Yep.
treatment plant?
Yep.
Now, those capital improvements now,
Yep.
then we bill into those other entities?
Yep. So, Mr. President, Mr. Seaman, outside entities are going to pay the same as inside. We're all part of this. So when we calculate the capital improvement charge, we will take all costs and you'll remove the grant that obviously that's paying for that portion. And what's left is what you're financing. You'll have a loan and you'll have an annual payment for those loans. Okay. So you take that loan payment and you'll divide it by the total wastewater billed to all customers. And you'll come up with a charge per volume. We use 1,000 cubic feet.
Okay,
But it includes outside customers. So Northwest Sewer District,
yes,
which is a lot of Northwood,
yes.
as well as Lucas County. Okay. So Rena Beach, Howard Farms, Harborview,
Mhm.
they'd all pay into this. And so they would pay almost 28% of the total financing for this.
Good to know. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Seaman. Councilors, any further questions for the administration on item number 123? Hearing no questions, I'll sign item number 123 with ordinance number 123 of 2021. And ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record. Ms. Evans.
Authorizing the mayor to submit applications to the Ohio Public Works Commission for financial assistance from the State Capital Improvements Fund and the Local Transportation Improvement Program Fund and to execute contracts for approved funding from said funds and programs and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Council.
Mr. President,
Yes, Ms. Pauloff.
I move for passage of ordinance number 123 of 2021 and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Pauloff.
Second.
Was that Mr. Reeves? Yep, second by Mr. Reeves. Ms. Evans, would you please take roll call of council on passage of ordinance number 123 of 2021 as an emergency measure?
Mrs. Pavlov?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Davish?
Yes.
Mr. Horniak?
Yes.
Mr. Seaman? Mr. Seaman?
Mr. Seaman.
Yes,
Mr. Wallenzak?
Yes.
Mr. Zale?
Yes.
Thank you, council. Please note that ordinance number 123 of 2021 did pass by a vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays. Move to item number 124. Item number 124 is again being presented by Mayor Michael J. Safarian and Public Service Director, Mr. Paul Roman, and we will go directly to Mr. Roman.
Thank you, Mr. President. This ordinance is to purchase easements and property for the Oregon Town Center project. This is really the last acquisitioning for the Phase 1 project. And we've had a verbal agreement all along with Charles Crest. We were waiting for corporate approval or final corporate approval, and we have that now, and that's why it's coming forward. There are maps in the back. The full description of the exhibit, cost breakdown are all included in Exhibit A. And then there are maps at the back that kind of show where the easements are the things that are further back, permanent right-of-ways right along the new road. So, but that's it. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Councilor, any questions for the administration, Mr. Roman, on item number 124 of 2021? Here are no questions. I'll assign item number 124 with ordinance number 124 of 2021 and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record. Ms. Evans.
Authorizing the mayor, finance director, and director of public service to enter into an agreement with Charles Crest II Corporation and Ohio Nonprofit Corporation for the acquisition of temporary easement in a portion of property for the Oregon Town Center project Phase 1 and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Council.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Horniak.
I move for passage of ordinance 124 of 2021 as an emergency measure.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak.
Second.
Second by Mr. Davish. Ms. Evans, would you please take a roll call of council on passage of ordinance number 124 of 2021 as an emergency measure?
Mr. Horniak?
Yes.
Mr. Davish?
Yes.
Mrs. Pavlov?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Seaman?
yes.
Mr. Wallenzak?
Yes.
Mr. Zale?
Yes.
Thank you, council. Please note that ordinance 124, 2021 did pass by a vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays. That ends the items for consideration and passage this evening. We will move to the mayor's report. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Council, I believe you have correspondence for some resignations, retirements, and a couple promotions and a hire. And I'm going to start first with putting my glasses on. And ask council's concurrence in accepting the resignation from Tim Ekman, and it would be effective as of the end of October 17th, 2021. And once again, I'd ask council's concurrence in accepting the resignation from Tim Ekman.
Thank you, Mayor Council. Yes, Ms. Pauloff.
I move to concur with the mayor's acceptance of the resignation of Tim Ekman.
Thank you, Ms. Pauloff.
Second.
Second by Mr. Reeves. Council, is there any objections? Hearing no objections, Mayor Council concurs with the acceptance of the resignation of Mr. Tim Ekman.
Thank you, council. And next, the resignation retirement from Matthew Hagedorn, who was from the part-time fire department, employee 1987. He worked at fire stations for 14 years, served at station 41 and 43, and the effective date is November 15th, 2021. And I ask council's concurrence in accepting the wishes or the retirement of firefighter Matt Hagedorn.
Thank you, Mayor.
Lieutenant Matt Hagedorn.
Thank you, Mayor Council.
Mr. President,
Mr. Zale.
I move to concur with the mayor on accepting the resignation retirement of Lieutenant Matthew Hagedorn.
Thank you, Mr. Zale.
Second.
Second by Ms. Pauloff. Council, any objections? Hearing no objections, Mayor Council concurs with the acceptance of the retirement of Lieutenant Matthew Hagedorn.
And this next one from recreation, I will call a promotion going, and we're taking Jonathan Flanagan from grounds worker 1, classification 1, step 1, to facility supervisor, classification 7, step 1, $14 an hour, effective date today, October 25th, 2021. And I'd ask council's concurrence in promoting Jonathan Flanagan to what I had just stated.
Thank you, Mayor Council.
Mr. President,
Mr. Reeves.
I move to concur with the mayor's promotion of Jonathan Flanagan.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves. Second by Mr. Horniak. Council, any objections? Hearing no objections, Mayor Council concurs with the promotion of Jonathan Flanagan.
And lastly, to fill a position in the streets maintenance department, I would ask council's concurrence in the appointment of Jim Baldwin of 4373 Glendale Avenue, Toledo, Ohio, to the position of maintenance worker to be placed in step 1 of the main maintenance worker pay range, which is an hourly rate of $26.66 an hour and an annual rate of $55,452.80. And the startup date would be November 8th, 2021. And I'd ask council's concurrence once again to the appointment to that position to Mr. Jim Baldwin.
Thank you, Mayor Council.
Mr. President,
Mr. Dabish.
I would like to concur with the mayor of the appointment of Jim Baldwin of a start date on Monday, November 8th, 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Dabish.
Second.
Second by Ms. Pauloff. Council, any objections? Hearing no objections, Mayor Council concurs with the appointment of Mr. Jim Baldwin.
And with that, I would conclude my report.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're looking at that
Yeah.
appoint, we already done that.
Oh.
The Tim tonight deal has already been done.
Okay.
So we just kind of prematurely or inadvertently put that in your file. But with that, I will conclude my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Purpura.
No report, Mr.
Thank you,
President.
Ms. Purpura. Mr. Roman.
I have no report, Mr. President, but Mr. Baldwin's in the audience, and I don't know if he'd want to stand and show himself, but might want to say hi, Jim.
Mr. Baldwin. Congratulations. Welcome.
That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Reeves.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves. Mr. Zale.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Zale. Mr. Seaman. Thank you, Mr. Seaman. Mr. Davish.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Davish. Ms. Pauloff.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mrs. Pauloff. Mr. Horniak.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak. And I have no report from my standing committee. Therefore, we'll move to the public participation portion of the meeting. And we have one individual signed up. Is there anybody else that would like to sign up? With that, Sackerman, please step forward. State your name and address for the record, please.
Beth Ackerman, 931 Bury Road, Oregon, Ohio, 43616. I don't know if you guys realize, but you can't hear anything back there, so I don't know if you can turn that up or
Adjust it a little
or
bit.
maybe I'm just louder than most folks. Oh, that could be. I just wanted to, at the advisement of some former city council people, it was suggested that I read a letter into record. This letter came about based on the inaction and the indifference to the subject of placing citizens' properties for sale. And I know you guys don't think it's a big deal. The Ohio Farm Bureau's looking into it. They have attorneys looking into it. It's something that I don't think anybody on council, and so there's been zero reaction other than to either, well, just to ignore it, make light of it, or just dismiss it. Those of us who have had our properties placed for sale on Regional Growth Partnership or their Oregon Economic Development Foundation. And here's the issue. Because the mayor has said that he will pursue developing Eastern Oregon, we don't feel comfortable that our properties are not being placed out there as possible expansion, as your maps show, through other things that we just aren't aware of. And we all found out about Regional Growth Partnership out of dumb luck. So I'm just going to read this into the record, and then I'm done. Dear Oregon voters, imagine that your land and neighboring homes and farms were listed for sale internationally for industrial development by City of Oregon officials without ever telling you or them. And months later, getting a visit from Oregon's Mayor Safarian wanting you to sell your property for a factory involving hazardous materials on land currently zoned agricultural. Living on the far eastern end of Oregon, it never occurred to many of us who farm and who have homes in the area that Oregon would market over 500 acres on the eastern end of Oregon for industrial development through the Oregon Economic Development Foundation, Toledo Growth Partnership, Regional Growth Partnership, and who knows where else. But that is exactly what happened without our knowledge or permission. Taxpayer dollars have been spent in development infrastructure planning with zero feasibility research. We were told Oregon would seek no zoning changes until a buyer wanted our land. Prior to that, there would be no public meetings, no impact studies on health risks to humans or the environment, no representation from our elected officials for our citizens. Oregon has always had an industrial area on the west end of the city, a commercial residential area centrally, a waterfront community on the north, and an agricultural residential area to the east with commercial generally along Navarre Avenue. This has been in keeping with the 2025 master plan. At city council meetings, requests to cease development until land use changes are publicly discussed have been ignored. They disregard the citizen input within the master plan, yet have made no attempt to revisit it. Our citizen group, Save Our Wetlands, sent candidates a survey and a self-addressed stamped envelope or requesting an email response, asking them to state their position on having industry on the east end of Oregon and on reviewing the master plan. It has gone unanswered by all but two candidates. They were mayoral write-in candidate Stephen Solander and city council candidate Scott Sullivan. We are asking that citizens please consider voting for a new mayor and a new city council member and new city council members who will be respectful of land use, concerned about water and air quality and migratory habitat, and support an upgraded master plan, and ensure that when the city is listing any property for sale, that the property owner be notified and agree to having their property listed for sale. We are generational, tax-paying Oregonians with family and friends in the Oregon community. It is simply wrong to list our property for sale without our knowledge or permission. Whatever your decision on this or other matters, please vote in the November 2nd, 2021 election. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mrs. Ackerman.
Any questions, comments?
No,
And
Yes,
I
yes.
do
Who
have.
wrote that? Who wrote that?
Pardon?
Who wrote that?
Sandy, Ben, and I.
Oh, okay. That sounds
Okay,
right.
and
That
is
sounds
that
right.
her
That sounds
advisement
right.
that I came and
Thank you.
read it into
Thank
the
you.
record? Do you think I came up with that on my own?
No.
So
Yeah.
I've been getting a lot of
Yeah.
great advice from Judge Petroff and some former council people. I do have some copies. It's real easy to find the National Wetlands Inventory, just that shows that what are actual federal wetlands in our area. So if anybody is still confused about whether there are wetlands,
Ms. Ackerman, would there be a chance that we could get a copy of that letter so we can enter it into the minutes, please? Thank you. Thank you very much. With that, I'll seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr.
Thank
President.
you, Mr. Seaman. Second by Mr. Reeves. Council, any objections? Here are no objections. Meeting is adjourned.
Sandy. I knew it. I knew it.
It's through this.
That's why I asked. Sandy.